ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. This is Newslink, but first, our headline stories. The Senegalese government reacts to publication of the Court of Auditors report covering the management of public finances between 2019 and 2024.
This process will involve various individuals, including ministers, general directors, accountants, managers, and other stakeholders.
WADR outlines its intervention in the fight against climate change at the AUB Media Summit in Dakar.
We train radio station journalists. We coach them along the line. Every story they have to send to us, there is a journalist out here in Senegal who will work with them, from scripting to producing to ensuring that these voices of the indigenous people, we capture the right information.
Mali readies to integrate some 3,000 ex-combatants into the armed forces as a way of ensuring lasting peace, and the Ivorian state prosecutor denies claims of any political influence for the sentencing of 2 PPACI executives for attacking national defense. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and welcome to our listeners from across the sub-region and beyond. Newslink begins here in Senegal over the government's swift reaction to the report published by the Court of Auditors. The document covering the management of public finances between 2019 and 2024 reveals significant irregularities in budgetary expenditures and the country's debt, which has reached nearly 100%, thus exceeding the UEMOA threshold. The Senegalese executive now plans to implement structural measures to correct the anomalies identified by the Court of Auditors. Judicial proceedings have also been threatened against personalities from the former regime of President Macky Sall. Christopher Tichu completes the story.
The findings are bitter, according to the government. Following the publication of the report, here's Cheikh Diba, Senegalese Minister of Finance.
This report is an accurate snapshot of the country's financial situation. It highlights deficiencies that must now be rigorously and decisively addressed.
For the government, strong measures are now necessary to prevent the country's economy from collapsing.
The reform is structured around 3 major axes. Firstly, the strengthening of budgetary control and the management of public services. Secondly, the modernization and digitization of public finance management. Thirdly, structural reforms aimed at reorganizing the services involved in debt management.
Judicial proceedings are also being considered, according to Ousmane Dieng, Senegalese Minister of Justice.
This process will involve various individuals, including ministers, general directors, accountants, managers, and other stakeholders. The complete identification of all those responsible for these irregularities and their accountability before the competent judicial authorities is envisaged.
In response to the government, the APR, the former ruling party, rejects the conclusion of the Court of Auditors report and refers to it as manipulation.
Christopher Aticho reporting there. Still in Senegal, the African Union of Broadcasting Summit enters its final day with the role of radio in combating climate change being re-echoed by speakers, guests, environmental experts, researchers, and media professionals. The 2-day AUB Media Climate Conference, in collaboration with the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, also commemorates the 2025 World Radio Day, which centers on climate change. The regional conference hence serves as a platform to inform stakeholders of the exchange of ideas on best environmental practices, the latest climate findings, and innovative adaptation and mitigation measures. West Africa Democracy Radio, as an official media partner of the AUB, outlined its series of interventions in the fight against climate change, including training of journalists, material support, and community engagement using the radio. Here's an extract of Agnes Tomasi, WADR's station director.
We identified 3 countries. Senegal was one of it, Ghana and Nigeria. where we looked at all these issues of the effects of climate change, because we all know what is happening right now, the effects of the water bodies in the Lake Chad and all of that. And through this, we took experts to the communities to have exchanges. And there you will see that, first and foremost, producing content, preparing the content to ensure that it is holistic. All stakeholders are involved. The testimonies, the call to action from religious leaders, the young people bringing out their voices. So having not only a radio platform, but also, I believe, building and strengthening communities is very important. Community radios play a critical role. They are trusted. The community believes in them. It belongs to them. They volunteer, but they are not strong in many ways. How do we train them? And WADR does that. We train radio station journalists, and we don't only train them for a few days, we coach them along the line. Every story they have to send to us, there is a journalist out here in Senegal who will work with them, from scripting to producing to ensuring that these voices of the indigenous people, we capture the right information, we document it, and we take it out.
WADR's Station Director Agnes Tomasi there. The Gambia and India have strengthened bilateral relations with a focus on enhancing collaboration, capacity building, capability enhancement, and sharing best practices for mutual benefit. This came up during a bilateral meeting between the Minister of Defense of India, Rajnath Singh, and his counterpart in the Gambia, Seren Modunjai, in New Delhi on Wednesday. Containing a press release, both ministers emphasized their commitment to strengthening defense cooperation between both countries. The meeting was also part of a broader engagement strategy, as India and the Gambia have been working to deepen their bilateral relations, which include previous discussions on defense and security matters. In Mali, the transitional authorities have officially launched this Disarmament, Remobilization and Reintegration DDR1 program. A total of 3,000 ex-combatants from armed groups allied with the military will soon be integrated into the Malian armed forces. The former fighters from the Azawad Liberation Front, considered terrorists by Bamako, are however not included. More details from our Bamako correspondent Aliyu Chem and voiced by Eche Atisu.
This primarily involves the Gatia, the Imgad Tuareg Self-Defense Group and allies, and the MSA, the Movement for the Salvation of Azawad, two armed groups close to the military in power that are concerned with DDR1. 2,000 ex-combatants from these groups, as well as from self-defense groups, will be directly integrated into the army. The remaining 1,000 will benefit from socio-economic reintegration. That's according to General Ismail Wage, Malian Minister of National Reconciliation.
The
DDI program of 2024 aligns with the commitment made during the inter-Malian dialogue at DEM, where the integrations and reintegration of ex-combatants was identified as a clear recommendation. In this perspective, the Malian government has defined a clear and structured plan to ensure both the social and professional reintegration of compatriots from former armed political groups.
Issus des anciens groupes politico-armés.
Through this process of disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration, the transitional authorities aim to better secure the national territory and establish lasting peace.
Nous devons nous rappeler que la paix.
We must remember that peace is not decreed. It is built every day through concrete action and sincere commitment from all stakeholders. The Malian government will make every effort to ensure that each ex-combatant, whether reintegrated or integrated, finds their place in our society and can positively contribute to the society and development of our country.
The Northern Independence Movements, united under the Azawad Liberation Front, are not included. They are considered terrorists by the military in power.
WADR's Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham's report, voiced by Eche Atisu.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we're live on Facebook, WADR English Service, and on YouTube on WADR. Now, let's take you to Côte d'Ivoire, where two executives of the opposition PPACI of former President Laurent Gbagbo have been served 10 years of prison sentences each for attack on national defense. The sentenced executives are Damana Pikas and Kwa Justin. Providing additional information on their sentencing is Kone Brahman Omar, public prosecutor of the Abidjan court. Addressing a press conference, the public prosecutor specified that Damana Pikas is not being prosecuted because he's a politician.
The creation of this new anti-money laundering body, housed within the Ministry of Finance and Budget,
Damana
Pikas was named as the financier by one of the defendants involved in the struggle and the various subversive action files. So, the elements in the file are quite convincing and attest to the fact that Damana Pikas was the financier. Kras Justin's firm of reference was September 14, 2020, the date on which the Constitutional Council was due to publish the list of candidates authorized to take part in the presidential election. That's when he tried to get his militants and supporters all fired up, asking them to prepare themselves physically and mentally and to take to the streets all over Côte d'Ivoire over an infinite period, creating chaos. And he did not deny the charges against Damana Pikas and others. Just like Fuad Justin, these are criminal acts. They are not misdemeanors, and they are particularly serious. The time for justice is not the time for politicians, and we don't get involved in political considerations. These are criminal facts that have been investigated in accordance with the rules of criminal procedure.
Conformément aux règles contenues dans le Code de procédure pénale.
Kone Brahman Omar is a public prosecutor at the Abidjan court. Now, while lawyers of Damana Pikas vowed to appeal the verdict, the leader of the PPACI, former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo, alleged that the ruling was politically motivated. It should be noted that Côte d'Ivoire is scheduled to hold its presidential election in October 2025. Ghana's main opposition party, the New Patriotic Party, has criticized the office of the special prosecutor and its head, Kisi Ajeban, for describing former Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. During a press conference in Accra, NPP national organizer Henry Nana Boake stated that the OSP's actions were unreasonable and that labeling Ofori-Atta a fugitive was unjustified and a national embarrassment. On Wednesday, Special Prosecutor Kisi declared Ofori-Atta a fugitive on charges of causing financial loss to the state in several dealings, including the construction of the National Cathedral and the Ghana Revenue Authority's contract with Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited. WAD's Accra correspondent Na Diriteti reports.
The New Patriotic Party, the NPP, has come to the defense of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, rejecting the office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP's, declaration that he is a fugitive. Addressing journalists in Accra on Thursday, February 13, NPP national organizer Henry Nana Boake strongly refuted the OSP's claim.
He traveled on the 2nd of January, and your letter to him came in on the 24th of January. So how could the man be labeled as a fugitive? Indeed, he was not even the finance minister about 8 months before the elections. And you, Mr. Kisi Ajeban, you were the special prosecutor. And he was in the country throughout. For 8 months to the election, you could not invite the person. The person steps out of the country for medical attention. And it is not as if you wrote to the person before he traveled. Your letter came 2 weeks after he had traveled. And yet, you unreasonably labeled this person as a fugitive.
Mr. Boake further criticized the OSP for making what he described as sensational statements that provoke public emotions and create unnecessary drama. He argued that the issue could have been resolved through proper correspondence rather than public pronouncements. The national organizer also expressed concern that labeling Ofori-Atta a fugitive amounts to a national embarrassment, especially considering the brief duration of the communication between the OSP and Ofori-Atta's legal team.
Mr. Ofori-Atta's long history of openness and cooperation reinforces a commitment to upholding the highest standards of integrity. Mr. Ofori-Atta can never be a fugitive. He is not a fugitive, and he will never be a fugitive. The OSP got it wrong.
Meanwhile, the majority in Parliament has apologized to the former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta following a raid on his residence by military and police officers. According to the Majority Leader Mahama Yerga, its investigations revealed that the operation was led by Richard Jakpa, an official of the National Security Coordinator's Office. For WADR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The Senegalese government reacts to publication of the Court of Auditors report covering the management of public finances between 2019 and 2024. WADR outlines its interventions in the fight against climate change at the AUB Media Climate in Dakar. Mali is set to integrate some 3,000 ex-combatants into the armed forces as a way of ensuring lasting peace, and the Ivorian state prosecutor denies claims of any political influence over the sentencing of 2 PPACI executives for attacking national defense. Ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. The Supreme Court of Liberia has for the first time officially commented on the leadership tussle in the House of Representatives involving embattled Speaker Fonati Kofa. In the statement, Justice Yami Kwikwi-Gbese of the Supreme Court clarified concerns surrounding the absence of justices at President Joseph Boakai's second State of the Nation address and declared that decisions made by the majority bloc led by Richard Cohn are invalid. The reason cited was the bloc's failure to elect a recognized speaker, a constitutional requirement for establishing a valid quorum. From Monrovia, Abraham Parker completes the story.
According to Justice Gbese, the actions of the Cohn-led majority bloc are considered ultra-vires, rendering any legislation passed or decisions made null and void. This clarification has provided legal insight into the justice's absence from the president's address, generating discussions nationwide. But in response, Representative Fode Famula, a lawyer supporter of the majority bloc, dismissed Justice Gbese's statement as mere legal talk.
We will not give any legal statement from the Associate Justice. I'm going to keep you short and make a legal statement. I'm not giving any.
Meanwhile, during a press conference on Thursday, the Rule of Law Caucus aligned with embattled Speaker Kofa echoed their refusal to operate under the leadership of Richard Cohn after days of sitting under the majority bloc.
The stability of our democracy and the stability of our economy and the trust of the Liberian people and our international partners. Call on our colleagues to respect the decision of the Supreme Court and to work with us towards a resolution that is consistent with the rule of law.
Political analysts predict that the impasse in the House of Representatives is unlikely to be resolved soon, leaving the political landscape in a state of uncertainty. For Newslink on the West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Abraham Parker reporting from Monrovia.
And before the guest interview segment, we head to Nigeria, where transformative 3D training session focused on harnessing the power of artificial intelligence, AI, in journalism is underway in the nation's capital, Abuja. The workshop becomes imperative in an era where technology continues to reshape industries. The event, organized by the United States Agency for Global Media in collaboration with the Voice of America, aims to equip journalists with the skills and knowledge to effectively utilize AI tools in their work. Usman Umar tells us more.
The 3-day training brought together about 30 journalists from various media outlets from across Nigeria. The program was designed to familiarize them with a range of AI tools, offering insights into how these technologies can enhance their workflow. Muhammad Abba is the business development representative of USAGM in Nigeria.
It's one of the newest revolution that is happening across the world. And the US believes that one of the things that we can be able to do to contribute to the media industry in Nigeria is through organizing something like this. So this is one of the reasons that informed the idea of bringing this training to the fore in Nigeria.
The sessions featured hands-on workshops and group discussions led by experts, including the lead facilitator, Mr. Celestine Archie. Participants were guided through understanding the deployment of various AI tools while also addressing the ethical considerations that accompany their usage in journalism.
If you want to streamline your workflow, streamline your media workflow, be more effective, be more efficient, and of course, if you want to remain in the game, then you have to begin to embrace artificial intelligence, as simple as that.
Some of the participants spoke to WADR on the impact of the training on their new perspectives on AI in journalism.
I came in here as a novice when it comes to using the AI tool, but being open-minded about AI is not taking all our jobs, but rather AI is here to assist us to make our work efficient. I also urge every journalist, every newsroom, every media stations to incorporate AI into their workspace.
As the landscape of journalism continues to evolve, even with the attendant challenges of paucity of internet infrastructure across the West African sub-region, training sessions like this one play a crucial role in preparing journalists to adapt and thrive in a tech-driven world. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this afternoon is Fanny Langella, Head of Content and Channels at United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Langella speaks about the importance of the media, with particular emphasis on the role of radio as a medium in the fight against climate change. She has been speaking to my colleague Imoradet at the venue of the African Union of Broadcasting AUB Climate Summit in Dakar, whose official media partner is WADR.
You've seen this year's climate issues, which is currently being discussed not just here in Dakar, but across the world, and a present issue at that. How do we resolve this matter that is slowly getting out of hand?
At UNDR, one of our key messages is that there's nothing natural about disasters. The decision that we humans make can either increase or decrease our risk. Where we build, how we build, what we grow, whether we evacuate or don't evacuate ahead of a disaster. All those decisions taken at individual or collective levels can either increase our exposure to climate risk or increase our resilience. And so it's really important that we work with media to raise these questions and to create public dialogues among experts, communities, and authorities so that everybody, both at individual and collective level, can make informed decisions about risk so as to strengthen the resilience of communities.
Well, the attention in Africa seems to be very low. How do we get funding in this case?
There is really a need to support Africa and the most vulnerable countries. And UNDR has been advocating for financing strategies, both at national government, but also with support of external donors, international financing institutions, to strengthen the resilience of the most vulnerable countries. And we also need to mobilize the private sectors. We need to develop innovative financing solutions, innovative insurance solutions, so that we can pool resources from many corners and also create synergies, so that what's really important is that the investment we make are not washed away by the next flooding. So it's also important to make sure that the investments are informed by risk, that we're making sure that where we build, where we develop, is not going to be exposed and create additional exposure to risk.
Getting these messages down to community dwellers, what role do you think the government can play in this, and even the media?
Here, what's really important is to bring together government and media, national but also local media. Here we're speaking about radio, community radios, to create trust and strong relationship. And I think at UNDR we really want to play this role as a convener between government and media, because what we know is that one-way messaging from authorities to the public doesn't always lead to the behavior change change and that we want to see. We really need to create conversations, dialogues across society, and media can also give an opportunity to communities to share their views, to share their perspective, to express how they see risks and what are their perceptions, so that together authorities and communities and media can work to create more awareness and behavior change around risk.
Fanny Langella is head of content and channels at the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Up next is sports news with Sankule Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Confederation of African Football CAF conducted the final draw for the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations Côte d'Ivoire 2025 on Thursday at the CAF headquarters in Cairo, Egypt. The tournament set to take place from 26 April to 18 May 2025 will feature 13 teams competing for continental glory and 4 qualification spots for the FIFA Under-20 World Cup Chile 2025 according to the CAF official website. Nigeria's Flying Eagles will play in Group B, where they will face former champions Egypt and Morocco as well as South Africa. In Group A, host Côte d'Ivoire will take on DR Congo, Ghana, Tanzania, and a second representative from UNIFAC region. Group C sees Senegal begin their title defense against Zambia, Kenya, and Sierra Leone. The top 2 teams from each group will qualify for the quarterfinals along with the 2 best third-place teams, from where the tournament will proceed in a knockout format, culminating in the final on 18 May 2025. Meanwhile, CAF also conducted the final draw for the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations on Thursday. The youth competition set to be contested by 16 African nations between 30 March to 19 April 2025 in Morocco. The draw outcome saw tournament host Morocco headlining an interesting Group A consisting of Uganda, Tanzania, and Zambia. Algeria, Burkina Faso will be up against UNIFAC 1 champions of UNIFAC qualifiers, South Africa as well as former champions Egypt in Group B. And reigning champions Senegal will kick off their title defense in Group C against 2009 winners Gambia, Somalia and Tunisia. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Sports was brought to you by Sankule Janko. And that's how we end this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Seg and Umu Janyogo for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, on Facebook, WADR English Service, and stream live on WADR.org. Do join Demba Amar Ann at the top of the hour of 1 p.m. for the second edition of our comprehensive news package in French Info Chiffre. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM.